Today I'm pleased to introduce to the posse Daniel Zirilli. Daniel is a writer, director and producer who has over 40 features and 250 music videos to his name. He's collaborated with icons such as Steven Seagal, Michael J. White, Tom Sizemore, Dolph Lundgren and James Franco. His knowledge of the industry is extensive and it's great to get to chat with him today about filmmaking. Welcome, Daniel.
Thank you very much.
Daniel, 40 features and over 250 music videos. That's a serious amount of filmmaking you've achieved. You come across as a very committed filmmaker.
I am, for sure. I actually, when I grew up, I thought I was going to be a lawyer, but I got to LA. I went to Pepperdine University and started writing screenplays. And from there, I just got into music videos and then now feature films. So once I decided what I wanted to be, which is primarily a director, I've just done it over and over and over for the last, I hate to admit it, 25 years now, since 1990. So I'm very committed to making movies and music videos, and I love what I do.
So you obviously have a very strong work ethic. Do you think that's important in the industry?
Absolutely. You can't wait for anybody to give something to you. You have to go out and get it. And even though I'm advanced in my career, I take that opinion with everything. I go for it. I literally, if there's an opportunity, as soon as I see the goal, I go for it 100%. And a lot of it came from my writing, whether that be screenplays or writing treatments for music videos, and then just expanding my mind, especially now. I mean, right now the world is so small to me because I can fly anywhere in the world really quickly. If there's something I want to do, I don't limit location at all. If I want to do something in Thailand, I'll get on the plane. If I want to go to Spain, if I want to go to Tahiti or the Bahamas or anywhere in the world, I write it, then I pursue it, and I go after it 100%. So I think working really hard towards your goals is crucial, and a lot of it has to do with writing. You can talk a little bit more about that later, but 100% of work ethic, you need it. You can't wait around and wait for people to give you things. You have to go after it 100%.
Wow, that's great advice. So you've been in the industry for about 25 years now. Do you think the internet's playing a big part in what you do now as well? I find it's made a big difference,
100%. I mean, one of the things that has been really useful, especially in the past few years, is social media. So if I want something anywhere in the world, I literally just have to send out a message through Facebook, and I have, 5,000 people, because that's the limit there, that will give me advice or suggestions. And I tend to know people all over the world. Right now, I'm directing a music video for an artist named Dubs. And part of the concept when I wrote it was, I want to shoot it in 5 continents around the world. And that doesn't mean that I physically have to be there, although I'll be on a couple of them. I knew that I could do it by putting second unit teams into place through the internet and through my connections. So I just shot the video yesterday in Pismo Beach. Had drones and had dune buggies and 2 Mercedes-Benz racing along the beach. Next week, I'm going to shoot in Amsterdam with a DJ over there and a singer over there. I'm going to shoot stuff in Thailand. I'm going to shoot stuff all over the world, really. It's kind of spreading this sticker that it's called Not Going Home is the name of the song. We've printed up these stickers. So I'm going to go on Fiverr.com and get a bunch of people for $5 to shoot themselves on an iPhone putting the sticker somewhere, and that is going to spread. The band is going to tweet out the sticker and say, hey, fans, take an iPhone shot of you putting the sticker someplace cool. Now, I am giving it with the warning, don't put it on a tree, don't deface nature, don't do anything dangerous, but I'll have people from all over the world putting the sticker up. I said, let's get it on every continent except for maybe Antarctica is going to be tough. But even, I'll even put it in Atlantis underwater. So I just literally expand my mind globally. So the internet helps me do that.
Great answer, Matt. I love it. So innovation is obviously a big part of what you do, really thinking outside the box.
For sure. I mean, one of the things that I've always done is surround myself with really, really good technical people. For example, innovation, it sounds funny right now, but in 1992, 1993, me and a guy named David Bellino did the Rolling Stones Voodoo Lounge CD-ROM. Now, at the time, a CD-ROM was really cutting edge. David was working with Microsoft and Bill Gates and all of this technology. He worked at JPL Industries and for the government doing war games and all this stuff, and great guy. I edited my first music video in his garage. He let me be in his garage for a week cutting my first music video that I directed. So we've gone through history together, and we're still working together. But so, for example, at the time, a CD-ROM was cutting edge, and also at the time, a thing called lipstick cameras were cutting edge. You probably know what those are now, like little small cameras. But in 1992, 93, we ended up shooting a bunch of green screen footage for the Rolling Stones as a test shoot. Mick Jagger loved what we did. He called me, his agent called me and said, "Hey, Mick wants to know your ideas for this concert shoot up in Oakland." And I said, "Yeah, I want to use this lipstick camera. It's brand new, cutting edge, and shoot, basically put it on Ronnie Wood and shoot Mick Jagger singing to the camera on stage." Now, that hadn't really been done at the time. So when I went they flew me up to Oakland. They whisked me through the backstage, put me right with Mick Jagger outside of his trailer, and introduced me. And Mick said, "Hey, I know you want to do this camera, but I had a smaller one in the UK on this talk show, on this interview." I'm like, "I'm sorry, Mick, but this is the smallest one in the world. They put it on race cars. I'm going to have a backpack, a little 1.5 pound pack on Ron Wood. I'm going to put a satellite dish up in the snake, and he's going to point down to Ronnie Wood, and you're going to sing into it. I'm going to put it so small, I'm going to put it on his sunglasses, and it's the smallest one in the world." And his assistant's like, "Oh my God, he's talking back to Mick Jagger. What?" I'm like, "I'm sorry, I'm just right. I wasn't being cocky. I was just being factual." And he said, "Oh, all right, mate. We'll talk to you later." I know my UKI accent is horrible, but so about a half an hour later, the assistant came up and he said, "Oh yeah, Mick, we checked it out. It's the smallest one in the world. Okay, you got the gig." So I ended up shooting like 5 different shoots for the Rolling Stones with David Bellino. And at that time, we were always, and the Stones were really interested in cutting edge technology. So the green screen and the CD-ROM and all that was cutting technology. Also, 20 years ago, I did a music video for Redman, a rap artist, and I was using a Helicam at the time. Now we call them drones, but at the time they were brand new. I was on that TV show, How'd They Do That? And they followed me around with Helicams. They were much bigger. So I did a bunch of aerial footage, with drones before it became popular. And it's just funny because here we are 20 plus years later, and I'm flying drones like crazy. And all the same principles apply, which is to do shots that a helicopter can't do. And because that's one function, is find things to fly through, under, around. Because, aerial footage is amazing, but you got to use the tool specifically for its purpose. And in the case of drones, don't just think about aerial shots that are wide coming into tight or whatever. Think about what you can do with a drone that you couldn't with a helicopter. And that's kind of what I always look for, is new technology. I'm not saying necessarily I'm the most technical guy on the cutting edge, but I surround myself with the people that know technically whatever is coming next. And certainly the small cameras and shooting on HD now has made a tremendous difference in the cost of doing films and music videos. And there's no excuse for anybody to not start shooting stuff for the reel right now. I know that was long-winded, but I'm passionate about putting things in the can and creating a reel and getting cool shots, and always keeping an ear to the ground for new technology. And I've used it in my films and music videos, and I'll continue to look for the next thing.
I imagine the range of projects you're involved with are so different. There's so many different things.
Yes.
Being a writer and a producer and a director, having an understanding of all of it, do you find that makes you a better filmmaker?
Absolutely. I mean, I look at myself as primarily a writer-director, and I produce and executive produce kind of as my day job, and to develop my material. Not that I don't have a passion for producing. I do like it, as long as the director could keep his ego in the check. And I have had some bad experience with egomaniac directors, and that's one of the tips I would give people, is like, keep your ego in the check. It's all about the work. But when I do produce for solid directors, I love that process. But as a producer as well, I develop material for myself. I develop material for what I want to do. I write, co-write, make things happen. If I want to shoot in Tahiti, I will write something in Tahiti. Cut to 1 year later, I will be shooting in Tahiti. It's almost a self-fulfilling destiny thing. I love shooting in the islands of Thailand. It's a beautiful place. I have amazing crews there. Now, what do I do after the last few years? I develop material for the islands of Thailand. Phi Phi Island, where Leonardo DiCaprio shot the beach, etc. I've got 2 or 3 things. I was there twice last year. I was there a few weeks ago. it's one of the most beautiful places in the world. And next to that, in Tahiti, I shot at Marlon Brando's private atoll, Tetaroa, and we were the only ones that got access to shooting in Tetaroa. And those are the two most beautiful islands in the world, Tetaroa and Phi Phi Island. And so I literally write things. I write my destiny, and then I go after it hard. So even when you look at actors, and this is the same for directors and actresses and writers, etc. If you look at George Clooney, he was on the TV show and everything. He's always good looking and cool, smart and funny and everything. But where he started to excel is when he started developing and producing and EPing his own material. He started working with great directors. So he developed as a producer and then gave himself the best roles as an actor. That's a brilliant model to follow. I was doing that inherently, and I looked at what Clooney was doing. I'm like, hey, we're doing the same thing. Obviously, he's on an A-list level, but you know what? I've been in this business for 25 years. I've traveled the world. I have an awesome life. It's manageable and doable if for the right people that have talent and go after it hard. So just think really about developing your own material and then going after it hard. And develop material, don't aim low, aim high. If you aim low, you're probably going to shoot low. Like right now, I'm aiming much higher than I ever have been aiming. And, I've been having fun and traveling, and now I'm saying no to a lot of movies as a director because they're not right at this point in my career. But as a producer, executive producer, I still develop, put together material, I work with other directors and make movies. But creatively, I'm a writer-director.
That's a great answer, and I think that's really great information. I think the idea that if you should aim high, because if you aim high and you just miss, then you're still going to be a lot higher than if you aimed low to begin with, aren't you?
Absolutely, for sure.
So Daniel, you've worked with some amazing names in the industry. Do you find that people at every level are really professional and have a great work ethic, or do you have to deal with some real egos?
Good news and bad news, I've worked with a wide variety of people, from people with giant egos who had a terrible work ethic and they were just trading off their name, to amazing, incredible people like the Rolling Stones and James Franco. And, some people ask me, who's your favorite person to work with? Who's the coolest guy you work with? And obviously Mick Jagger's up there. But, having worked with James Franco, even just for a couple days, I would say that James Franco, because let me just describe what I did with Franco, and it was really cool on a variety of levels. We have the rights, me and a guy named PJ Palmer, to do a nonfiction film on The Grapes of Wrath by John Steinbeck. I'm a huge lit kind of collector and buff of Hemingway, Steinbeck, Jack London, Shackleton. These guys are some of my heroes, Zane Grey. So when we had an opportunity to get involved with John Steinbeck through the Steinbeck Institute in Salinas, we captured the rights to The Grapes of Wrath. We targeted James Franco because he was doing Mice and Men on the stage and on Broadway at the same time. I had read that he loved Ed Ricketts, which was basically a really cool guy in the 1920s and 30s that was friends with John Steinbeck, and they went on this adventure called the Sea of Cortez and basically went down in Baja and studied marine life. So we were invited to see James Franco on Broadway. We weren't certain that he was going to be part of the documentary, but I was certain that he loved Steinbeck. Obviously, he was doing the stage play, and I'd read somewhere that he loved Ed Ricketts. And PJ and I have a documentary about this guy, Ed Ricketts. So we go to the play. They treated us really, really well, had great seats. He was amazing. The cast was really cool. When it wrapped, he invited us, backstage. He introduced us to the rest of the cast. They were doing a New Yorker article at the same time, and we had an opportunity to kind of interview and talk to him on stage, but we hadn't booked him yet. And James and PJ and I started talking, and then we got into the subject of Ed Ricketts. And he's like, oh my God, I love Ed Ricketts. And the playbill, it said he always wanted to play Ed Ricketts in a movie, and he wanted to be a marine biologist when he grew up, but he decided to be an actor and play these guys instead. So I said, okay, cool. Well, PJ and I are doing this documentary about Ed Ricketts, and obviously, your reps had said that we want to interview you for the Grapes of Wrath documentary that we're shooting. And then he goes, when do you want to shoot? We're here with equipment. When are you available? He goes, I'm shooting this movie tomorrow in Brooklyn. Come by. I'm down. I said, okay, cool. So you're in? He goes, I'm in. So right away, I seized on that. We went outside. I said, PJ, I'm calling the agent right now, the manager, everybody. And I called him up and I said, James said he's going to appear in our documentary tomorrow. And they're like, I don't know. I said, listen, I just talked to James Franco. He told me, make it happen, set it up. I'm doing that. they said, okay. And then they checked with James and he said, yeah, I told Daniel I'll do it. So next day we go to Brooklyn. He's shooting that movie with Jonah Hill. I forget the name of it. Jonah comes out. I meet him. Then he makes time in the afternoon to do our interview. He speaks very intelligently on John Steinbeck, Ed Ricketts, and we capture this amazing interview. He was totally gracious. And then he is off in a car to go to the airport to fly the next day to teach a class at some college, some university. And then he was doing ADR for another movie. So in the course of James Franco's life, over 3 days, he was in a play on Broadway. He was doing a movie with Jonah Hill. We interviewed him for our Grapes of Wrath thing. He was doing ADR for another movie. And he flew to teach a class at a college. Now that is a pimp. That is an awesome dude. That is a cool MF. That guy has a hard work ethic. He doesn't care about necessarily money and everything. He's a creative guy. And I think that's somebody, to model your work ethic after. I mean, why not be diverse? Why not do a bunch of different things? Why not go for it? And that guy, even though he's at the level he is kicking ass on a daily basis.
So what projects do you have in the pipeline, Daniel?
So I have a couple scripts that I really want to do that are getting close. Earlier, I'd mentioned something I developed in the island of Thailand. It's called The Gun Runner. It's a great script about a guy who on a boat. It's kind of post-apocalyptic theming, but you don't really know. But he ends up on this remote island in the Andaman Sea, and he runs out of gas. He's got a dog. He goes onto the dock, and they say, we don't want to fuel you up. You have to talk to customs. And it ends up being somebody gets ambushed, and he has to fight, and they see what a great, strong fighter is, and he want to keep him on the island to kind of help with two gangs that are warring against each other. So it's a really cool script about a guy that gets involved in really exotic island. Of course, there's a girl there, a local girl, but he kind of fights these two gangs and pits them against each other. So kick-ass action movie, exotic location, right up my alley. That's The Gun Runner. I fortunately talking about some really highly named people to be that lead gun runner and people that want to make the movie with me. So that one as a director is one of the things I'm focused on. There's another called Crime Watch that a name actor attached to might shoot in Thailand or Atlanta. Solid script by Chad Law. Chad Law is a great writer, a friend of mine. I did a movie called Isolation with him, Shane Dax Taylor in the Bahamas about 1.5 years ago. Another one that I've just co-written and I'm going to produce for a director named William Kaufman and Johnny Strong, the actor. It's called Savage, and I can't tell you too much about it, but it also happens on a remote island in Thailand. So as a writer-producer, it's Savage. As a director, it's Gun Runner or Crime Watch. There's another movie that I might executive produce called Legend of the Black Tiger. And so I have an arsenal of developed material and a couple other ones, but those are right on the horizon.
That sounds amazing, man. I wish you every success with them.
Thank you very much.
So, Daniel, we normally finish these with 3 top tips for filmmakers, and I wondered what yours were.
Number 1, it's not about talk, it's what you can improve on your reel. You have to focus on proving it on your reel. Anywhere in the world, you can send a link that I can click on, and if you're the shit, if you're talented, and it shines through on your reel, then I'll see that. Anyone will see that. It's very obvious based on somebody's reel, whether that be an actress or an actor or a director of photography, a director, a producer, a writer. Prove it on your reel. Don't talk about it in coffee shops too much. I know some of that has to happen. But at the end of the day, no matter what your pitch is to me, even if you're really cool or amazing, beautiful girl who wants to be an actress, or you're a filmmaker, director, producer, it's not about what you pitch me. That might be helpful, but at the end of the day, it's all about building your reel. So number 1, focus on your reel. Get friends, family, actors, actresses. Everybody wants to build a reel. I'm sure if you're a filmmaker, you have a community of other filmmakers like this show that you're doing right here to put people together with different needs. People want to do different jobs. I want to direct, I want to produce, I want to write, I want to act, I want to whatever. You get together, create a community, and prove it on your reel collectively. That's number 1. Number 2, 100% develop your own material. Writing has gotten me, 60, 70% of my work. I think I've developed or had a hand in writing a treatment or a concept or a script or, a pitch or a synopsis or a full screenplay. And I've gotten now 20 films that I've co-wrote or just wrote the story for produced. So I've made 20 films that I've had a hand in writing, and, that's actually about 45 total. And probably, maybe 37, 38 of those I developed the script. So maybe 7 jobs were handed to me because of my track record. But the rest of it, I had a hand in developing the material, because once you've developed material, they can only do it if you're involved. So you leverage your position as a writer or a controller of the material, And if it's good material that people want to do, then they have to deal with you. Now, sometimes it ends up that I'm directing the movie, and sometimes it's like, okay, well, we want to work with this other director. Cool, I'll be an executive producer. Here's the material, but they still have to include you in the process. And that leads to my third point. Be a good person. People will screw you in this business. People will look to put you off to the side after you've done the hard work. So, a lot of what I've done is slow and steady. I might not be like a big name director, but I'm also not, a struggling filmmaker either, which I respect struggling filmmakers. But I have made it living in this industry slow and steady based on a good foundation where I've been good to cast, crew, other people, and my relationships are really important to me. Sometimes I've stood on, what people call integrity or whatever and had to turn away jobs. And, you're going to have to deal with some scummy people in this business. It's just inherited, but you just can't work with the worst of the worst, and you have to protect yourself. But by protecting yourself, you have to keep your own moral compass intact, and people will see that and recognize it. You're helpful to your friend when he needs a favor. You pay the people that you employ. You do things that advance your career, but by not stepping on people's heads. It might, and I've seen people step on people and get farther ahead than me, but it's short-lived and you can't really live with yourself. So be a good person, a good friend, a collaborator, work with good people, surround yourself with the right people. I have great people around me, great friends even on Facebook. I have great relationships that I've built slow and steady. And for that, when people check on me, the reviews come back good. They say, oh yeah, he's a good person, hard worker. I mean, just recently I'm up for this movie and they asked for recommendations, which is a little odd for movies or whatever. But, they called Lionsgate and Paramount and everybody said great things about me. And again, I'm not trying to be ego, but the fact is that I do care about my friends and fellow filmmakers, and I try to be a good person in this business. And because of that, along with work ethic, along with creating a reel, along with writing and developing my material, I have a strong, solid business that I'm running that lets me go around the world and make music videos and movies. And I do it with good people. And I think being a good person is often overlooked in this business.
I think that's really good advice, because what goes around comes around, doesn't it?
For sure.
My final thing was just to ask, is there anything you'd like me to ask you? Is there anything you feel really passionate you'd want to talk about that I've not mentioned?
Well, I just want to say that I'm very available. You can look me up on Facebook, Daniel Zirilli. You could, see me on Twitter and Instagram. I don't always get right back to you, but if you have something to offer, and everybody needs to bring a piece of the puzzle to the table. When people just say, hey, I want to be a writer, I'm like, send me a page. Let me read something. I've never written anything. Well, then that's a dead issue. You've got to do your part. So I guess what I'd like to say is look me up. I'm available. If somebody has something substantial or good or creative or links to a reel are always the easiest thing. You can see me at popartfilmfactory.com, P-O-P-A-R-T, filmfactory.com. For Facebook, send me an email, send me a message, and I won't get back to every single one of you unless it's something great. I almost click on every link as long as it's, a legitimate email. And I look forward to collaborating with your audience. I think that it's not an impossible thing. I literally, the world is so small. I don't care where you are in the world. If you're super talented and you prove it on your reel and you're a decent person, and I think I can do something to help you and help me and get something made, reach out to me. I'll look at your material and maybe we'll work together.
Well, that's very cool of you, Daniel. I think you're going to be inundated with lots of cool films set on exotic islands now.
Why not? Hey, I look for them all the time. You know what? The interesting thing is, and by the way, if you do pitch me, I just want a synopsis or a log line first. Do not send me the full script. But it actually really works. In today's internet, with the technology and HD cameras, just so much more is possible. It's a small world out there. I'm not saying everybody's a director or a writer. Most of the people are not. They're either not talented, they're scumbags, or they don't have the work ethic, or they have too many excuses, or they're lazy. Get off your ass and start creating. Now, there's only, a certain amount of people that will break through, but it is possible if you are talented. The world is small. You can get to people, you can create, you could prove it on your reel. You don't even need my help or anyone else. You could make something amazing on your own with the people you know right now. And that is the goal. I was just in Spain at a film festival. They screened, it's a No Identity Film Festival as in November. And I talked to a group of students at an amazing university down there. It's almost like fame, like these, talented filmmakers, writers, actresses, dancers. And I told them, when I come back here in a year, I want you to show me all the cool shorts or music videos you guys shot. So like, no excuses. All of you, because there was cameramen and dancers and models and actresses and writers and producers right there in that room with me. I'm like, don't make any excuses. When I come back in a year, show me what you shot. There's no reason to not start shooting stuff and do cool stuff. Don't just do talking heads. Don't do easy stuff. And I really recommend against horror movies unless it's amazing. There's just too many horror movies. Obviously, my wheelhouse is action. Be careful, be safe, but have moving bodies, interesting locations, move the camera a lot. Don't just do talking heads. Anybody can do that. Prove it on your reel. Reach out to me. I'm available. I collect all my emails. I get back to them eventually. And when I need something, I put a call out on Facebook and say, hey, I'm looking for a female-driven action movie. And then people send me that. I get requests all the time for scripts and projects, and I put it out on Facebook, or Instagram. But regardless of me, forget me, Daniel Zirilli. Go out and do it yourself. I mean, yes, I've had a lot of cups of coffee this morning, but this is the way I start my day. I'm like, go out and conquer, go out and get stuff done, have a work ethic and go after it. Do not just talk about it, do it. It really is true. I'm not saying, again, everybody's going to make it, but why not go for it right now and find out if one of them is you?
What a lovely ending. Well, Daniel, thank you very much for sharing your time and your thoughts with the Production Posse today, and good luck with all your upcoming projects.
Thank you so much.